The second half of the program is alive, and what a day it has been. What a week. And we have a lot. We haven't even come close to the season yet, and it feels like we're in the middle of it. Barry Tramel, a good friend of ours for many, many years, covers the Sooners, among others, as the lead sports columnist out in Oklahoma City. And we've had a lot of Texas A&M reaction and some from Austin. We have not heard what the Sooners are thinking. Barry, thank you very much for joining us. Tell us about your week.
Well, Paul, here's what I think happened with me is I think I have learned that I am going to go from a Paul Finebaum Show outsider to a Paul Finebaum insider in the coming. You call me, see what's going on in the heck outside the SEC. It looks like to me it's a done deal. It looks like to me the Sooners are headed to the SEC, and it's been wild. I didn't see it coming. That's my fault. There were some tea leaves looking back that were clearly readable if someone was paying attention. But things going so well for Oklahoma in every regard, financially and competitively, that, you think, well, why would they risk, upsetting that by doing anything? But clearly the financial instability of college athletics, COVID, the looming end of the television contracts, the NIL, the Supreme Court case, all those things. And then you add in the 12-team playoff proposal, which sort of was the final hurdle, I think, made it pretty clear that Oklahoma just financially said, we got to do this. So I think that's where we are, and it looks like it's going at breakneck speed to fruition.
Barry, how, based on the people with whom you speak, how and why do you think? I mean, you alluded a little bit of it, but how do you think this came about and when?
Well, I think sometime in the last 3 years, 18 on, we got past the halfway mark of the playoff contract, past the halfway mark of the conference television contracts. I think OU officials started looking long term at the financial picture. The changing nature of the television rights. Everybody's cutting the cord. The spigot that's been on for so long with television, is it going to continue? We don't really know. We do know with the SEC, when was it last year when they announced their new contract with ESPN? But was that going to be the same? The accelerating rights fees, was that going to happen with the Big 12? It's unknown. And I think in the last so I think they were sort of looking around at the landscape, saying, "What are we going to do?" The OU's a rich athletic program. They got tons of money, but everybody knows the rich likes their money and they want more money, and they spend their money and then they get more money. So they were looking ways to supplement their income, and Oklahoma, Texas, and the SEC with the added on to this new SEC contract would be a bonanza like we've probably never seen in college sports before. And all these events in the last 8 weeks now, the summer of 2021, it's going to be a monumental moment in college sports. So I think that's really what turned this into high-speed stuff, just the idea of financial security going forward.
Barry, you've covered OU for many, many years. You're a staple in that community on all platforms, especially in the newspaper business, and all that follows there. What have you heard, and from OU fans, and how do you think this fit will work?
Well, I think fans are generally ecstatic. I think I told you 3 years ago when this wasn't even talked about is sort of a pipe dream. I told you I thought OU fans would vote immediately if given the option to go to the SEC. It's sort of a romanticized notion. maybe they'll like it if they go to Gainesville, get beat 31-20, but, maybe not. But I think there's no reason why it can't work. I mean, OU's a fabulous athletic program, win a lot of national championships. They got a big-time football program. They're well-funded. They got great tradition, great fan base. I mean, they're just like all the SEC powers. They just happen to not be in the SEC. So culturally, it's not different. It's not very different. Oklahoma and Alabama or Oklahoma and Tennessee. That's not that difference of places. So it should work fine. There's no reason why it wouldn't. I think OU just won't win quite as much as they're used to. If they do, for crying out loud, it'd be fantastic. But they probably won't. But you just have to get used to that. That's just sort of the way it goes. I can't think of a negative other than the loss of longstanding traditions and opponents and friends and those kinds of things. But, life goes on. You sort of get used to it. The idea that everything's going to stay the same, we should have known a long time ago that's not the case. So I think it'll work fine.
Barry, we know how big that game is every year, whatever you guys call it now in Dallas, the Red River Shootout. I mean, I don't know, and I really don't care. But let me ask you this: what is the
Paul? You got to start caring. You're your brothers now. You got to care about this stuff.
Well, Barry,
you're going to have to change your mindset. I'm going to have to change my mindset. You're going to have to change your mindset. You got to care.
Someone asked me today, what are your thoughts about OU and Texas? I said, I like it for a lot of reasons, but the most important, they both have really good airports.
Well, we got a very easy airport. I can say that. Yeah, we got one of the easier airports in America, so that's fantastic. But by the way, they changed it from the Red River Shootout to the Red River Rivalry. I think somebody got shot in downtown Dallas in the 90s.
Is that what happened? Okay.
And then somebody said, let's not call it the shootout anymore. So
okay.
So it's the Red River Rivalry.
Okay, a friend of mine texted me the other couple of minutes ago and said, "Man, can you imagine if T. Boone Pickens were still alive? He was the benefactor of Oklahoma State. I mean, he was complaining years ago about A&M, which brings me to Oklahoma State. You cover them a lot as well. What's been the reaction from Stillwater?"
Well, it's alarm. It's alarm for everybody in the Big Eight. Financially, it's serious because their television contract, when this one's up, is going to be severely diminished, if there is one, if the conference stays together. I don't know if it will or not, but it's going to take a huge beating, and their budget's going to be in serious jeopardy. They're going to have to go into serious discussions about how to supplement that income. Is a Pac-16 possible? I think yes. Is it probable? I think no. The Pac has a pretty highbrow academic idea of itself. The idea of adding land-grant institutions, Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, that doesn't appeal to anybody in Walnut, California. So I think that would be a problematic. Competitively, Oklahoma State should be in pretty good shape no matter what if the finances can go. I think Oklahoma still wants to play Oklahoma State. So, if the Big 12 could somehow survive, Oklahoma State's profile could even go up. If we go to a 12-team playoff, that means OSU's playoff chances have increased without OU in the conference. I mean, OSU for 11, if you go back 11 years, the second best program in the Big 12, going by conference record, is Oklahoma State. And it's 5 or 6 game lead on whoever's third. I think it's Baylor or TCU. I can't remember. But anyway, OSU, have a decent chance to win the conference most years. And with this proposal, that would put them in the playoff most years. So if they can find a way to stabilize financially, it doesn't have to be a bad thing for OSU. But that financial picture, I mean, all of this is happening because of money. And, it's not it's not an infinite amount of cash floating around. I mean, there's going to be all these winners in the SEC contract. That means there's going to be some losers, and the people in the Big 12 are the prime candidates to be the big losers financially.
Barry, we've heard from Nebraska in the past, Missouri, and especially Texas A&M about the difficulty of living in the same mansion with Texas. Oklahoma has survived because they've been so good. But what are the challenges from the past, and do they matter in the present and future, considering who else is going to be their brothers and cousins in the SEC?
I don't think that'll be a factor in the SEC. Texas has had a commanding, some would say oppressive presence in the Big 12 boardrooms. Some of that was self-inflicted by the other members. You know, in 2006, 2007, somewhere in there, Commissioner Kevin Weiberg tried to push through a Big 12 network. He needed 9 votes. He could only get 8. Texas voted against it. Oklahoma voted against it. Texas A&M voted against it, and Nebraska voted against it. They all thought, you know, we can do more. We can make more going out on our own with the third-tier rights and those things. And then within a year or two, here comes Texas announcing the Longhorn Network, and everybody said, "Uh-oh, what have we done?" Well, that was a self-inflicted wound. You can't blame Texas for that. The Longhorns can be insufferable at times, but truthfully, I assume so can Alabama, and so can Ohio State, and so can Notre Dame, and so can Oklahoma, and so can Southern Cal. When you win at the highest levels, you can get some arrogance and sort of put your foot on people, and there's been some of that with Texas. But you know, the Longhorns don't come into the SEC with a ton of cachet. I mean, this is, in the last 11 years, Texas is the number 6 program in the Big 12 in conference winning percentage.
Oh my!
They're below TCU, Baylor, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and the Sooners. So this is not, you know, they didn't go out and get, you know, the 72 Trojans. They didn't go get, you know, an Oklahoma Bud Wilkinson power. This is a program that's not been all that competitive in the last 10 years. So if I was Texas, I'd sort of put my head down and try to win football games instead of trying to win votes in the boardroom. I think that's what they will do. They're smart people. They got a great athletic director in Chris Del Conte. And this will probably be good for Texas because they'll probably have to learn some diplomacy. And Oklahoma's the same way. OU and Texas have not had to be very diplomatic in the Big 12 because they knew they were the bell cows. They knew they were keeping the conference afloat. And when you know that kind of thing, you can sort of do what you want to.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.